Chemotherapy is this incredible weapon we have against cancer. I mean, it's life-saving, but it has this painful secret, a side effect that can get so bad, patients sometimes have to stop treatment altogether. So today, we're going to unravel this medical mystery. So here's the big question, right? Why is it that for some people, life-saving chemo brings on this absolutely crippling pain, but for others, not so much? Well, it turns out the answer might be hiding in a place we're just now starting to really get, and that's our own genetic code. Okay, so first things first, let's really get a handle on what this side effect is. We're talking about something that affects millions of people. And honestly, it's one of the biggest challenges doctors face.
The official name is a mouthful: chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy, or CIPN for short. But what does that feel like? Well, imagine this constant burning or that pins and needles feeling in your hands and feet, and it just never, ever stops. This isn't just, a little discomfort. We're talking about actual nerve damage. It can completely change a person's life.
So you can see why doctors would want to know, who's most at risk for this? Well, scientists went looking for clues, and boy, did they find a big one. And it was written right into our DNA.
And the prime suspect in this whole mystery? It's a single gene called BDNF. It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. But all you really need to know is that this gene's main job is to keep our nerve cells, our neurons, healthy and alive.
But here's the twist. It turns out we don't all have the exact same version of this gene. There are a couple of different flavors, you could say. If you have what's called the Val/Val version, you're more susceptible. Chemo is way more likely to cause you that awful nerve pain. But if you have the Met/Met version, it's like you've got this built-in genetic shield. It actually protects your nerves from the worst of the damage. Okay, now get this, because this part is wild. When researchers looked at who has this protective gene, they found something amazing. In East Asian populations, nearly half the people, a whopping 49%, carry this protective version. Now, that is a huge finding. It suggests that where your ancestors are from, your genetic background, could play a massive role in whether you're likely to suffer from this side effect. And that is a giant leap towards what we call personalized medicine.
Okay, so having this genetic clue is great, but scientists needed to prove it, right? To really nail down the connection. And to do that, they turned to an unsung hero of scientific research, the lab mouse.
And this was a really clever experiment. What they did was they created what are called humanized mice. They basically took out the mouse's own BDNF gene and swapped it with one of the human versions, either the susceptible one or the protective one. I mean, how cool is that? This setup was genius because it let them see exactly what just that one gene was doing. And the results? Wow, they were totally stark. The mice that got the susceptible human gene, well, when they were given chemo, their nerves got wrecked. You can see how they look all frayed and damaged. It was exactly what doctors see in their human patients. The gene made them vulnerable.
But then you have the mice with that protective gene, and it was a totally different story. Their nerves, they stayed healthy, totally intact, basically shielded from the chemo. This was it. This was the smoking gun. It proved that this one gene played a huge, critical role.
Okay, so we know what is happening, but now we need to understand the why. How does this actually work? It's one thing to know the gene is responsible, but the real magic happens when you figure out the mechanism. How can one little change in a gene protect a nerve, while another version lets it get destroyed? Well, it turns out it all comes down to this delicate balance, like a constant tug of war between two different signals inside the nerve cell. You've got one signal, a pro-survival signal, that's basically shouting, stay healthy, repair yourself. And then you've got another one, a pro-death signal, that tells the nerve to self-destruct if it gets too damaged. So here's what this susceptible gene does. It completely throws that whole system out of whack. When chemo comes along, it's like it just cranks the volume on that pro-death signal all the way up to 11, and the result is nerve destruction. But the protective gene, it acts like a master negotiator. It keeps those two signals perfectly in balance, and that lets the nerve ride out the storm and survive. And look, understanding all this nitty-gritty detail isn't just for science papers. This is where it gets really, really exciting. Because when you know how something breaks, you can start figuring out how to fix it. You can design drugs to solve the exact problem. I mean, think about it. Now that we know the why, that it's this runaway pro-death signal causing all the trouble, we can actually design a solution. We can create a drug that specifically goes in and shuts that signal down. That right there? That's the whole promise of precision medicine. And that is exactly what the researchers did. They tested 2 potential new drugs. The first one, called LM11A-31, is like a sniper. Its mission is to go in and block that specific pro-death signal. The other one, CN016, takes a slightly different approach. It helps reduce the dangerous inflammation around the nerves that the chemo kicks up. So what happened when they gave these drugs to those susceptible mice, the ones that were basically guaranteed to have nerve damage? The results were amazing. Their nerves were protected. The drugs worked just like they were supposed to. A huge win.
The researchers themselves put it best. They said, this work pretty much proves that this specific gene variation is a huge factor in who gets this awful nerve pain. And, even better, it shows we have 2 really promising new ways to treat it. This isn't just a theory anymore. It's a real, validated path forward. Which brings us to a pretty mind-blowing final thought. Just imagine a future where a simple DNA test could tell your doctor not only which chemo will work best against your cancer, but also which one is safest for your specific genetic makeup. A future where they could protect you from this pain before it even starts. I mean, could a DNA test one day tell you which cancer treatment is actually safest for you? That's the incredible promise hiding in the secrets of our DNA.